Hi everyone, we are back to the ecosystem, but today our lesson is about the food web. In this lesson, you will also learn how to take care of your environment because we are part of the ecosystem and we should be environmental friendly. So what is a food web? How are they related to the food chains? And what would happen if one organism disappears? So let's start with our lesson. Here you have a picture of the North American desert food web. As you can see, it has different organisms. And these organisms, they depend on each other for food. In other words, they depend on each other to get the energy they need. I want to mention for you that the arrows, they don't mean eat. They mean the flow of energy. So let's give it a try. The prickly pear cactus gives energy to the kangaroo rat. It means that the kangaroo rat eats the prickly pear cactus. Then the energy moves from the kangaroo rat to the kit fox, or it moves to the red-tailed hawk, or it moves to the rattlesnake. So keep in mind, the arrows, they don't mean to eat, they mean the flow of energy, in which direction the energy flows, from which organism to which organism. Let's start with the questions about it before we explain what is a food web. Now you are asked to name different organisms and pay attention. You will have similar to this in the activity sheet, so you have to concentrate. I want you to name a producer. Go ahead and name a producer in the picture. Don't forget, a producer is an organism that can make its own food by the help of sunlight. I'm sure you would say the yucca or the prickly pear cactus. Both of them are kind of cactus. Don't forget that we are in a desert food web. A consumer. Who can name a consumer? You have lots of consumers here. All the organisms that eat. You can start from the grasshopper, the jackrabbit, the desert tortoise, the scorpion, the beetle, kangaroo rat, rattlesnake, kit fox, red-tailed hawk. Why do we call them all consumers? Because they eat other organisms for food. They are eaters. A decomposer. You have the bacteria and the fungi at the bottom to the left. A decomposer breaks down the dead bodies and return important nutrients to the soil. They are very important to the environment because they clean the environment from dead bodies and return important nutrients to the soil so plants can use them later in order to build up their bodies. An herbivore now. Who can name an herbivore? You have the jackrabbit is an herbivore because it doesn't eat anything except for the prickly pear cactus and the yucca. The desert tortoise also it is an herbivore. Can we say that the kangaroo rat is an herbivore? No, because it eats the prickly pear cactus and the grasshopper. And it eats also the beetle. A carnivore. Who can name a carnivore? So a carnivore, it eats other animals for food. We have many examples as well. We have the rattlesnake, we have the fox, and we have the red-tailed hawk. All of them, they can eat the kangaroo rat, another consumer. Or they can eat the jackrabbit. That's why they are a carnivore. They eat other animals for food. An omnivore. The best example is the kangaroo rat because it depends on organisms like producers, and it depends on other consumers like the grasshopper and the beetle. So it eats both plants and animals. It is an omnivore. Now we will have the relationships between them. So you will answer some questions as well. I will put questions and you answer them. Now you have to name all the food of the kangaroo rat. What does the kangaroo rat eat? Look at the picture and pick them up. You can follow the arrow. All the arrows that are coming to the kangaroo rat, it means that they eat, the kangaroo rat eats them. So, look for the arrows and go backward. You will know what does the kangaroo rat eat. So, I will go back from the first one. It's the prickly pear cactus. It eats the grasshopper and it eats the beetle. Now name all the food of the red-tailed hawk. Again, look at the arrows, all the arrows that are coming to the red-tailed hawk, and go backward. Okay? So it eats the rabbit, jackrabbit, the kangaroo rat. Name all of the food of the rattlesnake. What does the rattlesnake eat? Also, follow the arrow and go backward. You will start from the jackrabbit, grasshopper, and the kangaroo rat. Name the organisms that eat the prickly pear cactus. The jackrabbit, the desert tortoise, the kangaroo rat. The main question that I want from this slide is, do organisms eat one kind of food? This is the most important question. Can I say that the rattlesnake eats one kind of food only? No. The kangaroo rat? No. The kit fox? No as well. So, in the food web, do we have organisms that eat one kind of food? No. Every organism eats more than one kind of food, and this is what helps to form a food web. Keep it as a secret. We will talk about it later. Why do we have food webs and not only food chains in an ecosystem? Now, this is the most important part of the lesson. Why do we have the food web? Why don't we have only food chains? Like, for example, the jackrabbit eats the prickly pear cactus, and the kit fox eats the jackrabbit, and that's it. The answer was in the previous slide when I asked you, can we have one organism eats one kind of food? In fact, no. So why do we have a food web and not only a food chain? Because each organism eats more than one kind of food. In other words, each consumer eats more than one kind of food. So, as you can see, in the North American desert food web, the energy flows from producers to herbivores, which we call them low-level consumers because they are the ones that eat the producers, to other consumers, which are the carnivores, which we call them high-level consumer or second-level consumer, and also it can reach to much higher consumer like the red-tailed hawk or the fox. So here in the food web, the energy flows from the producers to the consumers to higher level consumers. So what is a food web? What is a food web? A food web shows the relationships among different food chains. For example, how does the jackrabbit belong to two different food chains, one when it is eaten by the fox and once when it is eaten by the hawk. So, the food web also shows how energy flows from producers to higher level consumers. So don't forget, in an ecosystem, the energy flows from the sun, of course, but it's not an organism. It starts with the producers to herbivores, to carnivores or omnivores, to higher carnivores, and so on. So the food web in an ecosystem, it contains many food chains. Why? Because each organism eats more than one kind of food. What would happen if all the snakes will disappear in the North American food web? Let's say all the snakes, the rattlesnakes disappeared. What would happen? Which population will become more? Which population will become less? What would happen to the ecosystem there? If all the rattlesnakes died, there will be no predators for the jackrabbit and for the kangaroo rat. So the number of jackrabbit and kangaroo rats will start to increase. In such a way, they will eat too much producers, and the kangaroo rat will eat more insects, and the population start to become less producers and less insects. What happens if the rattlesnake died? The populations in the ecosystem will not be balanced. Some populations will increase and some populations will decrease. What if the kangaroo rat disappeared? If the kangaroo rat disappeared, many insects will start to appear more and more because there is no predator for them. Their number increases and increases, and they are going to eat a lot out of their ecosystem, and so it will become their resources less. At the same time, the red-tailed hawk and the fox will be affected because they will not have enough kangaroo rats in order to eat. So their populations might be less in the future. Or they die, or they can go to another place. Now it's your turn. You can solve activity sheet 12, but make sure that you understood everything. If you have anything you did not understand, please refer back to me.